Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the future of data warehousing and how Google Cloud allows you to get to the future sooner rather than later. My name is Jordan Tagani. I'm the Director of Product Management for Google BigQuery. And I'm here with Michelle Getz, Principal Analyst at Forrester.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So data has always been mission critical, and it's always really been a differentiator. If you were a navigator, if you had better maps, that was going to enable you to be more successful. If you're a researcher, if you have better data, you're running better studies, that's going to enable you to be more successful. However, nowadays, the scale of data is so large that it's really changing the game. Success is often not about whether you have the right data, it's being able to understand the data that you already have.
And so from that perspective, we constantly or used to constantly hear the term big data, and it felt like such a cliche. But the reality is that, data is what kills the blind spots of our business. It gives us the ability to really see what's happening in the market, see what's happening with our customers, and see what's happening within our business itself. And so what organizations are really starting to do is think about, how do we take advantage of all of this data? How do we make sure that we're collecting everything that we can so that we can have those better insights to make those business decisions? And so really what we're seeing in terms of this growth in data and information is that we're taking advantage of the cloud to allow us to accelerate collection of this information, to not always worry about, is it valuable, is it not valuable, because we know that anything that we can collect about the way that we operate and the way that we engage with our customers is going to be important. So between 2017 and 2019, we went from 37% of our structured data was in the cloud to 45% of our structured data is moving to the cloud. And that's not even just from a structured data perspective. We're also seeing that same sort of growth when it comes to semi-structured or content and digital assets. Now, the other thing that's starting to occur here is cloud isn't just a place where you push something to store it and lower that cost. It's not just a storage container, let's say. We're really thinking about, how can we also take advantage of that environment to do something with the data? So we have to think about how that data is managed and structured and will be made available. And so data management in the cloud is also on the rise, and 65% of firms are expecting to increase the amount of data that they're moving into the data management capacity within the next year. And then lastly, the ability to activate that data, to get those insights, to move to better decisions, and take advantages of the scale and the agility that newer technology can lend itself to. The modern data warehouse is also becoming increasingly attractive. And so from this perspective, 60% of organizations are really looking to increase that use case over the next 12 months. And that's really interesting from a data perspective and a growth and a technology point of view, but it really just comes back down to why. And data and analytics professionals who typically had been in sort of the weeds of managing and sourcing information are now starting to connect the dots about, why does this matter for the business? What are their stakeholders, decision makers, and executives expecting from this information? Well, obviously, number one, we need to grow the business. So that means we need to grow our revenue. So really tying to those types of capabilities that aren't just about, how do I lower the total cost of ownership about data, but how do I go offensive and really get better advantages for the organization with the outcome of more revenue. And to do that, we recognize that we have to engage with our customers better, create better customer experiences, have affinities to brand where they're coming back repeatedly because we're giving them what they want. And in order to do that, that information has to support the products and services that we deliver. Those products and services can't be stagnant. They have to maintain the pace of where the preferences and needs of our customers are going. And that means we're also using the data, looking at that interaction between customer experience and how they value our company, how they evaluate products and services, and continuously innovate, not being stagnant in what we deliver, but looking at new product and service opportunities and looking at ways that we can advance and evolve our products and services. And then lastly, it's really about speed. Does data and insight make us faster to meet those needs, or are we sitting back and letting those insights kind of devalue over time and perish and impact our business? So really what data has to do is keep pace, and insights need to keep pace with what's going on to move forward quickly.
Thanks. So I think we've sort of established that there's a data growth and a data problem, but how does this impact customers? Well, for senior leaders in an organization, they're noticing that that as data is growing and as data needs are growing, those are increasing faster than budgets are increasing. So people are getting pushed to be do things more efficiently, and stuff is starting to break. Data ends up being scattered in silos, and one of the key things that data can allow you to do is you get additional value when you try to merge that data together. And finally, there's security implications of moving to the cloud and trying to join data from these additional platforms. I think customers are also hindered by the legacy data platforms that they're using. As the scale has increased, they're starting to melt down. They just can't handle exponential growth given their existing architectures. The operational overhead is increasing faster than people are willing to handle, and they're being sort of left behind by sort of new types of analytics that may not be possible in their current data processing paradigm. And finally, they may be stuck with kind of the traditional data warehousing use case of taking yesterday's data, processing it in reports, and handling it the next day, because it means that it's much harder to react to things that are changing in real time. So one of the things we like to say at Google is that data warehousing is not a use case. So the real use case is being able to make data-driven decisions. You want to make good decisions with good data, and you want to make those quickly.
And so to make those decisions, you have to put data warehousing in context of not only the general use cases where data is going to provide value, but the future of the way that we're going to run our business. We're really starting to transform ourselves in the way that we work. What is the employee experience? How do people do their jobs? How do you source talent and skill sets? There's also this influence in our ability to take advantage of data in new ways and instrument it for new use cases that are going to occur, whether those are analytic or operational types of examples. And so data ops is emerging as a new competency center within the business. Obviously, it has impacts on the types of technology decisions that we're going to make and what those strategies and architectures are going to be. And then lastly, it all culminates into that intelligent business. And so this is really what we're talking about it's the future of the modern data warehouse, but it's also the future of our business. And so let's break this down a little bit. When we talk about the future of work, how is this changing and what's its relationship to the data? We are becoming much more insight driven. We're taking into account other types of information or a broader view to kill a lot of those blind sites that we had. And so we're not just operating off of a gut feel, we're trying to look at information and help us to validate some of the decisions that we're going to be making. And to be honest, some of those decisions we didn't have to make so frequently or at volume. Maybe some of that can be automated. So both from an augmentation and an automation standpoint, this is how our businesses are starting to transition to be insight driven. It makes us more collaborative because as people, we bring in different points of view and we want to share those points of view and confirm where we want to go and how to make the right decisions. And data sits at the center of this. We're bringing in our different viewpoints anecdotally, and we're bringing in our different viewpoints from the data, the facts, and the insights themselves to share them so that you can come together and be more effective. Ultimately, it's allowing us to be much more adaptive. When you have insights at your fingertips, when data is made available to you, you don't have these lag times between what you see within the market or what you see with your customer before you know what you can move forward on. So it ties back to that insight-driven augmentation and automation capabilities, which gets you to speed. You can get to these insights faster, and you want to be able to move that business faster. And ultimately, you're thinking in terms of ecosystems. The cloud in and of itself is an ecosystem of data which is representative of your business and the overall environment and your customers themselves. So really embrace that idea. That's where the future of work really starts to step in. Now, what did we mean by the future of data ops, and where does modern data warehousing enable this? Well, we really have to recognize that we need to develop our capabilities and keep up with the pace of our business requests and the changes that our business is trying to adapt to. So we're really investing in new development capabilities and bringing agile methodologies out of just the app dev and DevOps environment back to our data management and data engineering capabilities. And today we're seeing 60% of companies really moving towards this new paradigm to meet the demands of data and insights within the business. We're changing our technology. And certainly Jordan's going to go into this a little bit further in terms of what Google is doing right now. But let's just take it from a broad level. Our traditional data warehousing environments were really premised on how do I collect data and put it into storage? What are the infrastructure and system decisions and administrative decisions that we need to be thinking about? How do you connect our applications to storing and saving our information? And even the way that we were thinking about analytics was slicing, dicing, drill down, a lot of OLAP type of capabilities, very simple aggregate calculated functions. When we go into a modern data warehouse design, really what we're starting to think about there is object storage, table storage, really taking into account the combination of how the data currently exists and maintaining the integrity of that at the same time that we're able to refine that information for purposeful use cases. The computation and the processing is more adaptive and elastic to different types of workloads. And ultimately, you're using a variety of programming languages and capabilities that are going to help you meet where your business needs that demand, whether that's just core analytics or whether you're embedding those analytics and insights into those operational workloads. And so really what that's helping us to transition to is something that is much more capability driven rather than just data and systems driven. And so we're able to better harness and take advantage of our data at the point that we need it to meet all of those business demands that we talked about before. Now, obviously, the other benefit is not only are we really smart now, not only are we moving at the speed of business and the speed of our market and our customers, but we're able to really take advantage of doing more with a little less money. So we're seeing that migrating over to a modern data warehouse environment allows us to start seeing better savings, which really offsets where we're having to collect more information. So what does this mean when you take this future for our business and for data and bring this together? It really drives towards the future of the intelligent business. So what do we mean by that? What does it mean to be smarter? What does it mean that we can take advantage of these new data warehouse capabilities and all the benefits of moving to the cloud? So number one, streaming insight in real time. Think about automotive companies. Think about getting into your car today. You're not just driving. The car is smart and aware about the environment, helping you to have new safety features that can stop or slow down the car so that you don't get into accidents, that can warn you if you're almost ready to back up into your neighbor's car. Unfortunately, sometimes that happens. So you see these capabilities coming in from automotive companies to have better driving experiences, but at the same time, the information that they know about you as a customer and the types of things that you want to do. Where do you go? What tickets did you purchase to go to a sporting event or to a play? That type of information is now starting to be harnessed. And so companies like BMW and Porsche and Ford are all looking at harnessing all of this information to not only create better driving experiences, but to have better customer connections, that connected customer experience. Now, the other side of it is that data is now starting to change the way that we think at an executive level and within the boardroom. Think about simulating your business. Think about gamifying what's going on within your market and with your customers. How can you simulate what's happening there and interact with visual environments to hypothesize and test new business opportunities, profitability models, operational models. So within the healthcare space, we see this quite a bit, where physicians and surgeons are going in and being able to model patient outcomes. What were the procedures? What were the treatments? What were the adherences to those treatments? And places like MD Anderson and the Cleveland Clinic are really looking towards these types of simulations to help understand better treatments to get people up and faster and healthier as they move forward. Now, the other area, which is a little bit more pragmatic, is in the case of breaking down business silos. When Jordan talked earlier about, data silos and business silos, this modern data warehouse is allowing you to span between what your customers demand, how you're influencing that demand, how that's linking back to inventory, what does that look like in your broader supply chain, and what sort of decisions are you even going to make or affect from a manufacturing and sourcing perspective. So in that case, what we're really starting to see is retailers connecting the dots between all the different facets of a value stream that occurs within their organization. And we see this quite naturally in companies like Target and Walmart, and even some of the regional players like a Nordstrom's. They're really starting to use analytics and build on top of these modern environments so that those insights are a continuum that draw towards bigger and not just incremental benefits, but exponential revenue potential. And then lastly, the real future of the intelligent business is really not just democratizing insight, but democratizing the capability to get that insight. So when we talk about the rise of the citizen data scientists, everybody is going to have rich, robust, advanced analytic capabilities at their fingertips as more and more applications are coming to these modern environments to make it easier to predict, to influence, and to take automated steps and decisions within their business so that everybody is lifted and is smarter, not just the core data scientists and analytics teams, not just the decision makers, but every employee within the organization.
Thanks, Michelle, for sharing those insights. That was really interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to be here.
So it's clear that the picture that Michelle painted of goes beyond traditional data warehousing. So how do we get there? So when you move to the cloud, a lot of additional things become possible. I mean, first, scale. The separation of storage and compute lets you scale your storage system and your compute capabilities independently to almost unlimited sizes. Second, as Michelle was describing, being able to make real-time decisions allows you to understand what's happening right now in your organization and be able to make decisions very quickly. This can be a differentiator for many businesses, such as in financial services. The ability to make faster decisions than your competitors can mean the difference between making money and losing money. Going beyond real time into the sort of the predictive space means that instead of just understanding what's happening now, you can understand what's going to happen tomorrow. What are your customers going to do? What is going to happen? And there's lots of compelling use cases along that area. One of the key components of this is a centralized storage system that breaks down the barriers between your data silos. Sharing data between your data lake and your data warehouse becomes possible, and you should really only have to store one copy of your data, rather than having multiple copies that you move out for doing data science, or that you move out for for other data lake operations. Kind of underpinning this is sort of advanced security and trust controls. Sort of once you're in the cloud, the threat model changes. If you can move data around super quickly, you could, in theory, exfiltrate your data just as quickly. So we need additional types of security controls to manage data in the cloud, and so that we can be confident that our data is going to be used in the way that we want it to. And lastly, on this topic, there's sort of data sharing and being able to make sure that everyone in your organization who should have access to the data can get access and can get the value out of that data. So Google has a broad analytics platform that combines not just data warehousing, but a whole suite of tools to allow you to process your data, to comprehend and understand the data, to analyze the data, and then to visualize and generate reports over the data. But what we're going to focus on today is BigQuery. BigQuery is at the heart of Google's analytics platform, and it is our enterprise data warehouse. It scales up to petabytes, kind of up to petabytes for queries, and up to exabytes for storage. All your data is stored encrypted, durably, highly available. It's a fully managed system. It's serverless. We have real-time components, built-in machine learning. So many of the things that we saw on the previous slide of what does the data warehouse of the future look like, many of the things already exist in BigQuery. And I'll describe this in more detail in a little bit. But first, I want to talk about the architecture and how the architecture of BigQuery enables many of these things. So I think one of the key thing here we have a separation of storage and compute. So our BigQuery storage system can scale to exabytes, and it scales completely independently from our compute cluster, which can scale to hundreds of thousands of CPU cores. And then tying between the two, we have our distributed shuffle tier. And I think one of the key differentiators and innovations that Google maintains is the quality of our network. And the quality of the Google network is really what enables BigQuery to operate as effectively as it does. I mentioned security was super important. Google Cloud is sort of built on a number of cross-cloud security protections, such as the encryption between machines and between data centers. Anytime data is on the wire, we have the VPC service controls, which let you prevent exfiltration and limit who can access your data. We have access transparency, so that in case anytime your data is accessed, you get an audit log record. And we also have a number of certifications from around the world to enable you to use your data on our cloud. We have a lot of customers using BigQuery. And a lot of different use cases that line up to the areas that we were talking about before. So first is lower TCO. Home Depot is a big retailer that recently migrated to BigQuery. They've found that they spend a lot less using BigQuery than they did with their on-prem data warehouse, and they get a lot more value out of it. They have probably almost 2 orders of magnitude more data than they did before, because that data is providing them value. Next is sort of the real-time use case. So Zulily runs a number of daily deals, and they if they only get reports the next day about what happened yesterday, then they can't make any changes in real time. So they use BigQuery's real-time streaming infrastructure to be able to make rapid changes throughout the day in order to maximize the impact of their deals. 20th Century Fox is a big user of BigQuery machine learning. I'll talk about in a little bit. AccuWeather shares data sets with their suppliers and distributors. kind of multiplying the value of their data. And finally, HSBC is one of our keystone customers in the financial services area. That for them, the kind of the security of their data is of the utmost importance, and they've entrusted us with some of their most sensitive operations. You don't just have to take our word for it. Folks like Forrester and Gartner also recognize that Google is a leader in data warehousing. So what specifically are we doing along these lines? So I mentioned predictive analytics, and one of the keys here is making machine learning available to more audiences or larger audiences. Folks find that it's very difficult to hire data scientists and people with machine learning PhDs, and so we want to actually reduce the level of knowledge and specialized knowledge that you need to have in order to accurately make predictions. So we have BigQuery machine learning, which lets you operate, build models and make predictions directly from the database. We also have connections to AutoML tables, which you just point it at a table and it'll automatically generate a machine learning model. And then we also have strong connectors to TensorFlow. So if you do have machine learning scientists who want to build the best possible model, that you can also do that without having to unnecessarily make copies of your data or move data around. So BigQuery BQML is pretty slick. It's just a SQL query to either create models and train models or make predictions over those models. So to train a model, instead of running a create table as select as you might in a normal SQL statement, you can write create model as select, and you provide kind of a limited set a simple set of parameters to describe how you want to create that model. We have a number of models that are supported. The ones that are in general availability are logistic and linear regression and k-means clustering, but we have a number of additional ones that are in alpha, and including XGBoost, which is the one that sort of wins all the Kaggle competitions these days. So, kind of in addition to predictive analytics, we also have real-time analytics, which can make it easier to make rapid decisions about what's going on in your business. In many verticals, we find that real-time decision making provides real value. I mentioned e-commerce, but mobile gaming, being able to quickly make decisions that keep customers engaged and keep customers playing the game. Being able to identify fraudulent transactions, et cetera. The faster you can make decisions, and you can make automated decisions, the more value you get out of it. So the next step is logical data warehousing. Logical data warehousing is a category that lets you treat other data as if it's your data warehouse. We sort of think about it as just sort of providing platform interoperability. So we have two branches of this. One is using BigQuery to read data that lives in other sources. So if you have if your data lake data lives in GCS, in Parquet files or ORC files, you can query that data as if it's native. We also just launched an external query functionality, which lets you query data in Cloud SQL in order to sort of join that data and explore that data with your BigQuery data. So that's sort of one side. That's sort of pulling data into BigQuery. The other side is pulling data out of BigQuery. So BigQuery has the storage API, which lets you read at full speed from data in your data warehouse. Can do parallel reads with filter pushdowns and column projections that enable you to read from sort of like Hadoop-like and MapReduce-like workloads, with the same speeds as if you were just running over HDFS or Parquet files that were living in an object store. So we have strong integration with Cloud Dataflow. So if you're running Spark, or if you're running Hive or Hadoop, You can get very fast queries over your table, and you get all the advantages of having BigQuery manage the data. So you can do DML over the data. You can apply kind of strong governance policies to that data. So the next step is BI, and BI is sort of a special case of data visualization. So in case you haven't heard, Google Cloud just recently announced an acquisition of Looker. Now it hasn't closed yet, so I can't talk about too many details, other than to say that BigQuery and Looker already work extremely well together. Looker is sort of more than just a BI tool. You can think of it as a data platform or a data API and when you combine that with BigQuery, it's sort of more than the sum of the parts. One of the great things about BigQuery is it's very good at sort of ad hoc queries, or queries that you hadn't necessarily thought of beforehand. Looker pushes all of the queries down to the query engine, so a lot of the times the queries look like things that the database wasn't necessarily ready for. And so with a lot of other backends, it kind of pushes them to their limits, but it works very smoothly with BigQuery. I won't comment on any future integrations, other than to say that I think it's going to be awesome. You add Looker in, and you can start seeing that a really complete overall analytics platform. So in addition to Looker, we also have plenty of BI partners. So if you have another BI tool that you like and you want to use, there's no reason that you have to switch to Looker. And we will continue to work well with Tableau, MicroStrategy, Business Objects, Click, et cetera. Whatever you're used to using, you'll be able to continue using. And we recognize that we need those to continue to work well. So finally is integration and migration. So if you decide that you want to use BigQuery, how do you actually start? So we've kind of mapped out the migration paths. It's not just a question of, okay, I'm going to take my data that's in this one data warehouse and export the data and transform the schema. For large enterprises, there's a lot more that goes on with this. You have to deeply understand your workloads. You have to assess, how much BigQuery do I need, plan the migration, and then we sort of have this sort of three-part migration where you kind of send data to both places. You send data then just to BigQuery, and then finally you have to verify and validate that the results you're getting are actually the same, because you don't want to just move all your queries over and turn out that your results have changed. And also many organizations do this in several parts. So they may do this sort of workload by workload. So you don't have to decide, okay, I'm going to move everything over to BigQuery and do it all on Thursday, and then on Friday you're sort of 100% on the new system. You can sort of do it a piece at a time. And finally, we have a lot of customers are choosing BigQuery as their data warehouse. A lot of large enterprises in lots of different verticals and lots of different areas of the world. So we have some special deals for data warehouse modernization from sort of free consulting and planning and support, training, et cetera. So if you have a cloud account person that you're working with, ask them about this if you're interested in migrating your data warehouse. Thanks everybody, and I think we're going to have a great rest of this conference. And next up is going to be Yao Morin, the Chief Data Officer for StubHub, and she's going to be talking about her experiences with BigQuery and some of the really cool stuff they're doing over at StubHub. Thank you very much.
And welcome back. That was really great to hear from Jordan and to hear from Michelle with some really great insights. Next up, we're going to hear from Yao Marin, who is the Chief Data Officer at StubHub. StubHub, of course, being the ticketing agency. And she's really been the mastermind behind the transformation of their data and revolutionising and modernising that. So let's watch as Jordan sits down with Yao and hear her migration story. And we'll be back very soon.